Continue reading Krishna Book by Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Chapter 50. Krishna erects the Dwarka fort. Upon Kamsa's death, his two wives became widows. According to Vedic civilization, a woman is never independent. She has three stages of life. In childhood, a woman should live under the protection of her father. A youthful woman should live under the protection of her young husband. And in the event of the death of her husband, she should live under the protection of her grown-up sons. Or if she has no grown-up sons, she must go back to her father and live as a widow under his protection. It appears that Kamsa had no grown-up sons. Therefore, after his wives become widows, they return to the shelter of their father. Kamsa had two queens, Asti and Prapti, and both happened to be the daughters of King Jarasandha, the lord of Bihar province, known in those days as Magadha. After reaching home, the two queens explained their awkward position following Kamsa's death. The king of Magadha, Jarasandha, was mortified on hearing the pitiable condition of his daughters. When informed of death of Kamsa, Jarasandha decided on the spot that he would rid the world of all the members of the Yadu dynasty. He decided that since Krishna had killed Kamsa, the whole dynasty of the Yadus should be killed. He began to make extensive arrangements to attack the kingdom of Mathura with his innumerable military phalanxes, consisting of many thousands of chariots, horses, elephants, and infantry soldiers. Jarasandha prepared 13 such military phalanxes to retaliate the death of Kamsa. Taking with him all his military strength, he attacked the capital of the Yadu kings, Mathura, surrounding it from all directions. Sri Krishna, who appeared like an ordinary human being, saw the immense strength of Jarasandha, which appeared like an ocean about to cover a beach at any moment. He also perceived that the inhabitants of Mathura were overwhelmed with fear. He began to think within himself about his mission as an incarnation on how to tackle the present situation. Before him, he thought that since he was not going to conquer the kingdom of Magadha, to kill the king of Magadha, namely Jarasandha, was useless. His mission was to diminish the overburdening population of the whole world. Therefore, he took the opportunity to face so many men, chariots, elephants, and horses. The military strength of Jarasandha had appeared before him, and he decided to kill the entire force of Jarasandha so that he would go back and reorganize his military strength. While Lord Krishna was thinking in this way, two beautiful chariots fully equipped with drivers, weapons, flags, and other paraphernalia arrived for him from outer space. Krishna saw the two chariots present before him and immediately addressed his elder brother Balaram, who is also known as Sankarshana. My dear elder brother, best among the Aryans, you are the Lord of the universe, and specifically, you are the protector of the Yadu dynasty. The members of the Yadu dynasty sense a great danger before the soldiers of Jarasandha, and they are very much aggrieved. Just to give them protection, your chariot is also here. Fulfill your weapons. Fill your weapons. I request you to sit on your chariot and kill all these soldiers, the entire military strength of the enemy. The two of us have descended on this earth just to annihilate such unnecessary bellicose forces and give protection to the pious devotees. So we have the opportunity to fulfill our mission. Please let us execute it. Thus Krishna and Balaram, the descendants of Dasarha, decided to annihilate the 13 military companies of Jarasandha. After equipping themselves with military dress, Krishna and Balaram mounted their chariots. Krishna rode the chariot on which Daruk was the driver. With a small army, they came out of the city of Mathura, blowing their respective conch shells. Curiously enough, although the other party was equipped with greater military strength, when they heard the vibration of Krishna's conch shell, their hearts were shaken. When Jarasandha saw Balaram and Krishna, he was a little bit compassionate because they happened to be related to him as grandsons. He specifically addressed Krishna as Purusadhama, meaning the lowest among men. Actually, Krishna is known in all Vedic literatures as Purushottama, the highest among men. Jarasandha had no intention of addressing Krishna as Purushottama, but great scholars have determined the true meaning of the word Purushottama to be one who makes all other personalities go downward. Actually, no one can be equal to or greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jarasandha said, "It will be a great dishonor for me to fight with boys like Krishna and Balaram, because Krishna had killed Kamsa." Jarasandha specifically addressed him as the killer of his own relatives. Kamsa had killed many of his own nephews, yet Jarasandha did not take notice. But because Krishna had killed his maternal uncle, Kamsa, Jarasandha tried to criticize him. This is the way of demoniac dealings. Demons do not try to find their own faults or those of their friends, but try to find the faults of their enemies. Jarasandha also criticized Krishna for not even being a Kshatriya because he was raised by Maharaj Nanda. Krishna was not a Kshatriya but a Vaishya. Vaishyas are generally called Guptas, or the word Gupta can also be used to mean hidden. So Krishna was both hidden and raised by Nanda Maharaj. Jarasandha accused Krishna of 3 faults: that he killed his own maternal uncle, that he was not even a Kshatriya, and that he was hidden in his childhood. And therefore Jarasandha felt ashamed to fight with him. Next he turned toward Balaram and addressed him, "You Balaram, if you like you can fight along with him, and if you have patience, then you can wait to be killed by my arrows. Thus you can be promoted to heaven." It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that a Kshatriya can benefit in either of 2 ways while fighting. If a Kshatriya gains victory in the fight, he enjoys the results of victory, even if he killed in a promoted to the heavenly kingdom. After hearing Jarasandha speak in that way, Krishna answered, "My dear King Jarasandha, heroes do not talk much, rather they show their prowess, because you are talking a great deal. It appears that you are assured of your death in this battle. We do not care to hear you any longer, for it is useless to hear the words of a person who is going to die, or one who is very distressed to fight with Krishna." Jarasandha surrounded him from all sides with great military strength, as the sun appears covered by cloudy air and dust. Krishna, the Supreme Sun, was covered by the military strength of Jarasandha. Krishna's and Balaram's chariots were marked with pictures of Garuda and palm trees, respectively. The women of Mathura all stood on the tops of the houses, palaces, and gates to see the wonderful fight. But when Krishna's chariot was surrounded by Jarasandha's military force and was no longer visible to them, they were so frightened that some of them fainted. Krishna saw himself overwhelmed by the military strength of Jarasandha. His small army of soldiers was being harassed. So he immediately took up his bow named Saranga. He took his arrows from their quiver, and one after another he set them on the bowstring and shot them toward the enemy. They were so accurate that the elephants, horses, and infantry soldiers of Jarasandha were quickly killed. The incessant arrows shot by Krishna appeared like a whirlwind of blazing fire, killing all the military strength of Jarasandha. As Krishna released his arrow, all the elephants gradually began to fall, their heads severed by arrows. Similarly, all the horses fell, their necks severed, and the chariots fell also, along with their flags and the fighters and drivers on the chariots. Almost all the infantry soldiers fell on the ground of battle, their heads, hands, and legs cut off. In this way, many thousands of elephants, horses, and men were killed, and their blood flowed just like the waves of a river. In that river, the severed arms of men appeared like snakes, and their heads like tortoises. The dead bodies of the elephants appeared like small islands, and the dead horses appeared like sharks. By the arrangement of the Supreme Will, there was a great river of blood filled with paraphernalia. The hands and legs of the infantry soldiers floated just like different kinds of fish. The hair of the soldiers floated like seaweed and moss, and the floating bows of the soldiers resembled waves of the rivers, and all the jewelry of the bodies of the soldiers and commanders seemed like many pebbles flowing down the river of blood. Lord Balaram, who is also known as Sankarshana, began to fight with his club in such a heroic way that the river of blood created by Krishna overflooded, cowards became very much afraid upon seeing the ghastly and horrible scene, and the heroes began to talk delightedly among themselves about the heroism of the two brothers. Although Jarasandha was equipped with a vast ocean of military strength, the fighting of Lord Krishna and Balaram converted the whole situation into a ghastly scene far beyond ordinary fighting. Persons of ordinary merit cannot estimate how it could be possible, but when such activities are accepted as pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose will everything is possible, then this can be understood. The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates, maintains, and dissolves the cosmic manifestation merely by His will. For Him to create such a vast scene of devastation while fighting with an enemy is not so wonderful, and yet, because Krishna and Balaram were fighting with Jarasandha just like ordinary human beings, the affair appeared wonderful. When all the soldiers of Jarasandha had been killed and he was the only one left alive, certainly he was very much depressed. Sri Balaram immediately arrested him with great strength, just as one lion captures another. But while Lord Balaram was binding Jarasandha with the rope of Varuna and ordinary ropes also, Lord Krishna was with a greater plan in mind for the future, asked Lord Balaram not to arrest him. Krishna then released Jarasandha. As a great fighting hero, Jarasandha was ashamed, and he decided that he would no longer live as a king, but would resign from his position in the royal order and go to the forest to practice meditation under severe austerities and penances. As he was returning home with his royal friends, however, they advised him not to retire but to regain strength to fight again with Krishna in the near future. The princely friends of Jarasandha instructed him that ordinarily it would not have been possible for him to be defeated by the strength of the Yadu kings. The defeat he had experienced was simply due to his ill luck. The princely order encouraged King Jarasandha. His fighting, they said, was certainly heroic. Therefore, he should not take his defeat very seriously, since it was due only to his past misdeeds. After all, there was no fault in his fighting. In this way, Jarasandha, the king of Magadha province, having lost all his strength and having been insulted by his arrest and subsequent release, could do nothing but return to his kingdom. Thus, Lord Krishna conquered the soldiers of Jarasandha. Although Krishna's army was tiny in comparison to Jarasandha's, not a pinch of his strength was lost, whereas all of Jarasandha's men were killed. The denizens of heaven were very much pleased, and they offered their respects by chanting in glorification of the Lord and showering him with flowers. Accepting the victory with great appreciation, Jarasandha returned to his kingdom, and Mathura city was saved from the danger of imminent attack. The citizens of Mathura organized the combined services of professional singers like Sutas and Magadhas, along with poets who could compose nice songs, and they began to chant the victory glorification of Lord Krishna. When Lord Krishna entered the city after the victory, many bugles, conch shells, and conches and kettle drums sounded, and the vibrations of various musical instruments like bharis, turiyas, venas, flutes, and mridangas all joined together to make a beautiful reception. While Krishna was entering, the whole city was cleansed. All the different streets and roads were sprinkled with water, and the inhabitants, being joyous, decorated their respective houses and shops with flags and festoons. The Brahmanas chanted Vedic mantras at numerous places. The people constructed road crossings and gates at entrances to lanes and streets. When Lord Krishna was entering the nicely decorated city of Mathura in a festive attitude, the ladies and girls of Mathura prepared different kinds of flower garlands to make the ceremony most auspicious. In accordance with the Vedic custom, they took yogurt mixed with fresh green grass and strewed it here and there to make the victory jubilation even more auspicious. As Krishna passed through the streets, all the ladies and women regarded him with eyes bright with great affection. Krishna and Balaram carried various kinds of ornaments, jewels, and other booty carefully collected from the battlefield and presented it all to the king Ugrasena. King thus offered these Krishna thus offered his respect to his grandfather because Ugrasena was at that time the crowned king of the Yadu dynasty. Jarasandha, the king of Magadha, besieged the city of Mathura not only once but 17 times in the same way, equipped with the same number of military phalanxes. Each and every time he was defeated and all his soldiers were killed by Krishna, and each time he had to return home disappointed. Each time the princely order of the Yadu dynasty arrested Jarasandha in the same way and again released him in an insulting manner. In each time Jarasandha shamelessly returned home. While Jarasandha was attempting his 18th attack, a Yavana king became attracted by the opulence. Yavana king somewhere to the south of Mathura became attracted by the opulence of the Yadu dynasty and also attacked. He also attacked the city. It is said that the king of the Yavanas, known as Kala Yavana, was induced to attack by Narad. This story is narrated in the Vishnu Purana. Once Garga Muni, the priest of the Yadu dynasty, was taunted by his brother-in-law. When the kings of the Yadu dynasty heard the taunt, they laughed at him, and Garga Muni became angry at the Yadu kings. He decided that he would produce someone who would be very fearful to the Yadu dynasty. So he pleased Lord Shiva and received from him the benediction of a son. He begot this son Kala Yavana in the wife of a Yavana king. This Kala Yavana inquired from Narad, who are the most powerful kings in the world. Narad Muni informed him that the Yadus were the most powerful. Thus informed, Kala Yavana attacked the city of Mathura at the same time that Jarasandha tried to attack it for the 18th time. Kala Yavana was very eager to declare war on a king of the world who would be a suitable combatant for him, but he had not found any. However, being informed about Mathura by Narad, he thought it wise to attack this city with 30 million Yavana soldiers. When Mathura was thus besieged, Lord Sri Krishna began to consider, in consultations with Baladev, how much the Yadu dynasty was in distress, being threatened by the attacks of two formidable enemies, Jarasandha and Kala Yavana. Time was growing short. Kala Yavana was already besieging Mathura from all sides, and it was expected that the day after next, Jarasandha would also come, equipped with the same number of divisions of soldiers as in his previous 17 attempts. Krishna was certain that Jarasandha would take advantage of the opportunity to capture Mathura when it was also being besieged by Kala Yavana. He therefore thought it was wise to take precautionary measures for defending against an attack upon Mathura from two strategic points. If both Krishna and Balaram were engaged in fighting with Kala Yavana at one place, Jarasandha might come to at another time to attack whole Yadu family and take his revenge. Jarasandha was very powerful, and having been defeated 17 times, he might vengefully kill the members of the Yadu family or arrest them and take them to the kingdom. Krishna therefore decided to construct a formidable fort where no two-legged animals, either man or demon, could enter. He decided to keep his relatives there so that he would then be free to fight the enemy. It appears that formerly Dwarka was also part of the kingdom of Mathura. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Krishna constructed the fort in the midst of the sea. The remnants of the fort Krishna constructed still exist in the bay of the Dwarka. Krishna first of all constructed a very strong wall covering 96 square miles, and the wall itself was within the sea. It was certainly wonderful and was planned and constructed by Vishwakarma. No ordinary architects could construct such a fort within the sea, but an architect like Vishwakarma, who is considered to be the engineer among the demigods, can execute such wonderful craftsmanship anywhere in the universe. If huge planets can float in weightlessness in outer space by the arrangements of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surely the architectural constructions of a fort covering 96 square miles within the sea was not very wonderful. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that this new well-constructed city developed within the sea had regular planned roads, streets and lanes. There were also well-planned parks and gardens filled with plants known as kalpavriksas or desire trees. These desire trees are not like the ordinary trees of the material world. The desire trees are found in the spiritual world by Krishna's supreme will. Everything is possible. So such desires trees were planted in Dwarka. The city constructed by Krishna, the city was also filled with many palaces and gopuras or big gates. These gopuras are still found in some of the larger temples. They are very high and constructed with fine artistic skill. Such palaces and gates held golden water pots, colors. These water pots on the gates or on the palaces are considered auspicious signs. Almost all the palaces were skyscrapers. In each and every house there were underground rooms containing big golden and silver pots for storing grain, and there were many golden water pots within the rooms. The bedrooms were all bedecked with jewels, and the floors were mosaic pavements of Marakata jewels. The Vishnu deity worshipped by the descendants of Yadu was installed in each house in the city. The residential quarters were so arranged that the different castes, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras had their respective quarters. It appears from this that the caste system mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita existed even at that time. In the center of the city was a residence made specifically of King Ugrasena. This was the most dazzling of all the houses. When the demigods Indra saw that Krishna was constructing a particular city of his own choice, he sent the celebrated Parijata tree of the heavenly planets to be planted in the new city, and he also sent a parliamentary house, Sudharma Sabha Hall. The specific quality of this assembly house was that anyone participating in a meeting within it would overcome the influence of invalidity due to old age. The demigod Varuna presented a horse which was also white except for black ears and which could run at the speed of the mind. Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, presented the art of attaining the 8 perfectional stages of material opulence. In this way, all the demigods began to present their respective gifts according to their different capacities. There are 33 million demigods, each entrusted with a particular department of universal management. All the demigods took the opportunity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead constructing a city of his own choice to present their respective gifts, making the city of Dwarka unique within the universe. This proves that while there are undoubtedly innumerable demigods, none of them is independent of Krishna. As is stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna is the Supreme Master and all others are his servants. So all the demigods took the opportunity to render service to Krishna when he was personally present within this universe. This example should be followed by all, especially those who are Krishna conscious, for they should serve Krishna by their respective abilities. When the new city was fully constructed according to plan, Krishna transferred all the inhabitants of Mathura and installed Sri Balaram as the city father. After this, he consulted with Balaram, and being garlanded with lotus flowers but carrying no weapons, he came out of the city to meet Kalyavana, who had already surrounded Mathura. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 15th chapter of Krishna. Purport of the 50th chapter of Krishna. Krishna erects the Dwarka fort. Hare Krishna.